We don't need ridiculousness in our life. We want everyone to have their own voice, everyone to have their own meaning, everyone to have their own place in society, but we can't have one more stand out than the other. And we've gotten to a point where a lot of things have gotten to just a level of ridiculousness. If you're tired of not feeling fit, tired of just not having the focus, tired of just not having the financial resources that you deserve, this is your place to be. I'm Jason Yarusi. This is the Live 100 podcast. Today, we're going to take action and dive in here. Well, we've been diving into some really anticipated discussions in this week's episode. We have a lot to weigh in on, right? We're talking about President Trump, just his cabinet picks, the transition process based on the current news, how business will be affected, especially if you're in the real estate space, how we can be affected, right? And honestly, this is going to be a powerhouse episode. So I want you to just sit back and think about a year ago, 2 years ago, 4 years ago, no matter where you sat in the political landscape, right? No matter who you voted for, right? And where you stood. Think back when, cabinet picks were being made. In recent time, in any time, have you ever had so much opinion or just so much energy being put together behind picks, right? Mostly is, he's picked this person, or this person has been picked, and lo and behold, things move on, right? But here, Trump, he had 2016. In 2016, he even admitted, he jumped in there and honestly, he didn't know really where the swamp was, right? So he didn't know exactly who to drain with the swamp. So he's had a lot of things that he looks back on, he says was potentially a mistake. And now going forward, at this time, he has all of the ammunition to put forward to make good decisions about who he's putting on his team. So let's just look, right? Right now we have Vivek and Elon are now going to be heading up DOGE, right? The Department of Government Efficiency. And you think about this, there's a lot of things that get spent on any big organization, right? And so if you look at the government as a big company for which it is, right? There's a lot of times when bigger companies, right? We see a lot of these tech companies that they've just now pulled back, where the bigger you get, the more redundancies you have, the more inefficiencies you have. There's more of overall costs that are happening that are outside your purview, right? So the smaller business, smaller operator who's really honed in on cost, right? They have the finger on every dollar that's coming in and every dollar that's coming out, right? That's one way to operate. But as you grow, as you scale, right? Many times, a lot of stuff gets missed. And the government has become so bloated over time, so enlarged, so many different pieces, right? You have the head, then you have an assistant, and that assistant has an assistant who has an assistant who has another assistant, that left to right, front to back, who's spending what, right? Who's spending here just to take the car somewhere else? Who's spending on lavish dinners? Who's going out there and buying 500 of something because no one's watching them, right? And that's our government. We now spend so much money inefficiently here that if we look at it compared to most other countries, it's just absolutely obnoxious, right? If you ever go to the debt indicator, you just see how much the national debt increases by the minute, right? By the second. You look at that compared to where we stand today and where we stood 50 years ago, and you ask yourself, like, how can we ever get out of that? And the only way to get out of this is with just massive, rapid change. And I don't know how this would actually work. I believe that the opportunity for DOGE to exist, for Vivek and Elon to come in there, is that they have the ability to go and present, right, their recommendations on what potentially could be removed. I don't think they have the power to potentially remove it, but on that front, well, they have the potential to look at what doesn't work and what hasn't worked and how to make this work better, right? When Elon came into Twitter, he got rid of 85% of the people, and those 85% of the people, you think the company would ultimately fall apart, but it just shows this nature of the world, that you have a lot of people who, if you have 10 people on a team, you probably have one or two people that are doing the majority of the work, and the other 8 are just kind of hanging out, just being part of it. So think about yourself, right? Think about the company you work for, right? And with any company, there's the opportunity to go and cut costs, right? And usually we only go in there and put the eye onto the prize when something tough happens, right? When we need to hit some mark, or where we have some threatening event come up where potentially the company is facing some tough events, right? Potentially going out of business, potentially going bankrupt, or potentially having to close their doors, right? You start to really look at where the money is going. And there's many cases over the course of just decades of just Sam Walton, right? He talks about cost, right? The most important thing is controlling your costs, and that goes for any business, right? If we're outspending what we make, that's a problem. And right now, as a country, we're spending more than we make. And as you look at how the world is evolving, right? There's no quick action to solve this. There's no quick action to solve this, minus just doing the same things that potentially we've done in the past and hoping for a brighter day in the future. And you can't live on hope, right? So when you see the government, the tough thing about honestly being a president is that you have 4 years to enact some massive mission, but you have a lot of resistance on the front side and the back side to be able to complete that mission, and then all of a sudden you're out of office. Well, hopefully, President Trump comes into office here. He's got the Republican Party as part of all the government factions that now have the full support of the Senate, right, of the House, and that is now going to give him the opportunity to push forward agendas that can be best for the country, noting that this is his last term, right? He's going to be out in 4 years here, that he can put forward an agenda. He can make some things happen that can truly set the mark to, I don't know if he can truly get us back on track, but he can get us closer to a track that's going to set us up for some future positivity compared to where we are today. I mean, we're in an interesting spot, right? We no longer are. We're still seen as the world power, but we're not the dominant world power. You look out there, you have China, you have Russia, you have India, you have all these other countries that have grown, right? That have been more bullish to push forward here, while we continue to have our own internal battles. We're no longer really the country with the best education. We're not the fittest country, right? There's so many things that we've fallen away from here that we've let other countries just completely come in there and take advantage. And you get back to just looking here at the way a company or where a corporation operates, right? We as a company, right? If we treat ourselves as the American people, as an organization, we've gotten lazy. And just think about that. We've gotten lazy. Why? Because as a country, we haven't faced tough times. Now, I'm not talking as an individual, right? There's people here listening to this right now that are facing tough times just as we talk about this. But we're not out there being enslaved. We don't have some regime just setting the narrative and keeping us apart. We're not being put in jails and mass capacities here. We have lived in the greatest country in the world for decades now, and a couple centuries. So when you think about that, it allows us as a country to be lazy, right? We're afforded all these luxuries. We have all these opportunities to have all these great things around us, right? So we get fat and happy. And that allows for us, our cost control, right, within our life to go out the window. And that's where setting the tone for us as Americans to go back and to look at how we're living our life and what got us to the point of greatness, right? I'm not talking that we're going to go back and, go into some ways of just the early 1900s or others. I'm talking about today. I'm talking about where we stand right now as a country. And where we stand as a country is we are very divided, right? There's people like myself who are very excited. We're very bullish for what the opportunity can be served with Donald Trump, right? I think the last 4 years of President Biden, President Biden, you want to be behind the president in any faction. I wasn't a fan of a lot of the things that were put into place. Ultimately, I don't know how much of it was truly President Biden making decisions. But you want to support the country. But at times when we have a lot of the energy and the thought process being truly focused on such a small portion of the country, right? Basically, it's the people that are yelling the most. That's where we've seen all the energy go, right? The people that are crying, yelling the most, right? It's the squeaky wheel gets the grease, right? And that seems like a lot of the things that we've been put into place out here are spent on who's making or crying the most. And most of us, we just want to live our life, right? We want to live our life to a point where we're just go out there and, go work for the day, go home and be around our kids, be around our family, go see our friends, go out there and, go work out and then just, have our next day, right? We don't want to get wrapped up into these things of just saying, well, can the school tell my kids that whether or not they're allowed to have a sex change without having to acknowledge me? Like we don't want that to even be on our plate. Yet that's become the news because this initiative by the few has now made it to a point where it's been on such a loud stage that it's in front of the masses. And we need to pull that back. We don't need ridiculousness in our life, right? We want everyone to have their own voice, everyone to have their own meaning, everyone to have their own place in society, but we can't have one more stand out than the other. And we've gotten to a point where a lot of things have gotten to just a level of ridiculousness. And it's really become enough, right? We don't need this as part of society. What we do need as society, we do need common thinking. We do need to have an open platform where people can put out their opinions and others can listen to them without trying to degrade them or put them down, right? An open discussion, open forum. And we have to understand that opinions, while it's not going to always be agreed on, is welcome. And with that, when a decision is made that we have to choose some way to go forward, even if you don't like it, if it's best for the country, that's what it has to serve. And we have gotten away from that, where we've just had so many things now that we're just focused on things that don't help us continue to be the greatest country in the world. And if you look at that, some of the cabinet picks, they're very interesting, right? It's some that you hope for, right? Some that probably didn't see coming, right? And it was a mix of traditional players and bold disruptors. We already said Vivek and Elon, of course, Tulsi Gabbard, right? It was great to see her come in there, right? It's just, if you look at it, it's a Democrat, right? Someone who could be great for president, right? She out in Hawaii, right? Where my wife is from, right? It was a fan there. She was military, right? If you think about it, why would she not be a great candidate for president? It's because somewhere the left has decided that she's the enemy. And what you see here is that, many times you can ruin someone based on information because society now chooses to just take the first headline without actually diving into the details. So it's great to see her back on there. Robert Kennedy, right? Robert Kennedy Jr. It's also, great to see him. If there's anything that's true, is that society here, we've gotten comfortable and we've gotten away from a part of using food as a way to survive. It is now food is just gluttony. And why we've allowed our health to be dictated by people whose agenda is to sell us things and make just billions of dollars is ludicrous, right? If you look at some of the things we're putting in our body, and just if you broke down and you actually research some of the ingredients and some of the foods and just some of the things they do just to keep us addicted to certain things like sugar, right? It's insanity. Why would we be putting all this in our body? Why would you be putting this in your kid's body? Why would you be letting your friends eat this stuff? Yet, if we compare things apples for apples from our country to other countries, right? They don't put these ingredients in there. And you have to look at it and say, well, why not? It's because it's ridiculous to have those ingredients in there. And I really do think that having someone who is going to be in charge of looking at the health of the country and wanting the health of the country to improve is going to pay dividends. And with RFK, he's been an environmental attorney, an activist. He's been a vocal critic of certain public health policies. He's an advocate that could play a significant role in reshaping the health and the environmental policies within the administration. because we need people to live longer, right? We're now just killing people daily just by allowing them, and really not so much allowing them, but just putting so much bad food at the way of being most affordable. And that's not fair to a lot of people. We've seen inflation run up. We've seen, food prices run up, right? And are we going to see them come down? No. I mean, that's the trouble, is that, food prices don't drop. It's not like milk's going to come down to $3 now that it's $5. It's going to stay at $5, but hopefully it won't grow to $6 next year. Maybe we'll grow to $5.05. That's just the truth, right? And we don't see prices decrease. It's like real estate. Prices are going to stay elevated, right? We're not going to see prices drop, right? They just hope we won't go up as much. That's just what happens with inflation. It's not that we're going to see some major reduction. Well, with food, for people that are on a budget, right, or potentially are showing money, what's most affordable, right? It's things that are not healthy for them, and it sets them down as downward spiral that even if they want to be healthy, they can't afford to be healthy, and that's just not acceptable in this country. We need to put health as a priority. We need to help people live their best lives, right? Part of the Live 100 message is that we want people to live their best lives in many different factions. And we want them to do it mentally, spiritually, emotionally, physically. And you have to work on it, right? Each and every day. But when you have things that are constant detractors, right, that are constantly pulling you down, right? If you have the government taking 70% of your paycheck for taxes that they're going to use recklessly out there and go spend your money recklessly, then you have food prices going out the window, and the things that you can afford are absolutely just horrific for you and your body. And then there's promotion for what you should be eating and how you should be working out. That's completely contrary to what is actually the truth, because it's being funded by companies that it would serve you to not be healthy, right? Because why are we one of two countries that can run medical ads, run commercials about all kinds of drugs, right? You have to ask, like, why? It's because someone in the back end is making a ton of money, and it's not you and it's not me. We're not benefiting on living a worse life. We're not benefiting on being sick, but someone else is, right? You have to truly look at it is that your life is precious, your life is special, your life is important, and how we're being treated is one based on what we accept, but also on the potential opportunities that are in front of us. So look forward today and just look at it of just, we are a society who has taken a step back from the greatness that we can be, but we're not too far gone. We're not too far gone. And, if you're a business owner or investor, this is probably where you really want to tune in here, is that, a Trump presidency means changes in regulation, economic policy, how industries operate from a day-to-day, small businesses, large corporations, even entrepreneurs stepping into new markets. I mean, this is the opportunity, a golden opportunity for massive pivot. We face 4 years of just high interest rates, of inflation, of a lot of unemployment, of just businesses cutting back, and a lot of it is because you didn't see a light at the end of the tunnel. And so when this transition happens, expect swift action from Trump to just go and deliver on his economic promises. I would until that President Trump put Jerome Powell in charge, and that was a decision that he looks back on and regrets. Jerome Powell says he's going to stay in office, but Trump's going to want to see interest rates level off. He's also going to want to see a ton of energy in the market. You might see things like bonus depreciation tick back up, right? And new regulations for that. A lot of things that could serve us as real estate investors, but there's going to be things like the loosening of certain regulations to open up industries. It could be a boost for focused, growth-focused companies, and then stability. Right? Is this change going to bring stability to the market? Right? The stock market stir things show. We've seen crypto go crazy the last couple of days. The stock market continue to hit new highs, and it's important for a business to stay agile, because if you know your market and you know the changes that are coming, this could be a massively successful period of history for you. So look back at the last 4 years and how you felt. And now let's look at the next few years. All right, so let's close this out here in closing thoughts. The power of a new era. There's been many, we'll say, dire times, right? The Great Depression, the Great Recession, different times of plague, other times of just of times that have seemed dim. But let's wrap this up. You've got a very interesting cabinet in a good way that's going to come up and shake up Washington. And it's a transition process that's going to be a test for a lot of people. For a lot of people to see truly what's behind the curtain and what's been happening at a level that's really set this country in a direction that's ultimately been going in the wrong way for many years from where we should truly be. And if there's one thing we know about Trump, it's that he's going to be breaking the mold. I mean, this is an era that's going to call for decisiveness, resilience, and a willingness to embrace the unknown. And I think about it, and you look at Trump and you look at a lot of other presidents, right? He faced 4 years, and Trump looks younger now than he did for 4 years before his presidency, where, a lot of these other presidents, when they come in there, they look like they've aged 20 years by the time they get out. Why? It's because most of them don't come from a business background where under high stress, high scrutiny, constantly under demand. And Trump, what he's come from, right, is he's come from development business, these things where you're always being trying to kill, now for him, both physically, but be trying to knock down would be a better word, right? When you're in this business of building and development, there's always these people, everything from city officials to contractors to government officials to people that are through environmental regulations, all these people after you are always under. So you're constantly in a part of negotiation, right? So you're constantly under stress, and that serves him as president in a very good way, because you're constantly being tested, you're constantly being stressed, you're constantly people that are out to serve their own agenda that are not necessarily good for your agenda. And that's led him to be successful and to really continue to carry forward. So let's think big, let's stay bold, and let's remember that the best opportunities don't come from staying safe. And we've tried to comfort everyone for too long. And it's time for break out of our mold, because the stakes are high. I mean, now is our time. Now is our time to break the mold and do big things. All right, so thanks for listening to this extended podcast. If you like what you got here, go down and hit that subscribe button. Share this with someone else that needs to hear this message. Let's go.